Thank you everyone for joining today evening's Bhagavad Gita study group. So we're going to cover chapter 10, text 8. Can you hear today evening's? Okay. Can you see my screen? I'm now at Veda base.
Yes, Prabhu, you can see.
Okay, thank you. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matah sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matah sarvam pravartate iti mata bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matah sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. Anyone would please like to chant?
Aham sarvasya prabho matah sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajayante mam buddha bhava samanvita.
Very nice. Thank you, Bimal Prabhu. Anybody else?
Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattah sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha.
Thank you, Satyabhama Mataji. Anyone else would like to make a go at it?
Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvita.
Thank you, Savita. Anyone else?
Aham sarvasya prabhavo matah sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samannitaha.
Thank you, Simeshwar Prabhu. So now we'll read the synonyms, translation, and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hey.
Synonyms: Aham, I, Sarvasya, of all, Prabhavaha, the source of generation, Mataha, from me, Sarvam, everything, Pravartate, emanates, Iti, thus, Matva, knowing, Bhajante, becomes devoted, Mam, unto me, Buddhaha, the learned, Bhava Samanvitaha, with great attention. Translation: I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. Purport: a learned scholar who has studied the Vedas perfectly and has information from authorities like Lord Chaitanya and who knows how to apply these teachings can understand that Krishna is the origin of everything in both the material and spiritual world. And because he knows this perfectly, he becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord. He can never be deviated by any amount of nonsensical commentaries or by fools. All the Vedic literatures agree that Krishna is the source of Brahma, Shiva, and all other demigods. In the Atharva Veda, Gopala Tapani Upanishad 1.24, it is said, Yo Brahmana Vidadhati Purva Yo Vai Vedanscha Gapayati Sma Krishna. It was Krishna who in the beginning instructed Brahma in Vedic knowledge and who disseminated Vedic knowledge in the past. Then again, in the Narayana Upanishad 1 says, Atha Purusha Havai Narayano Kamyata Prajaha Srijayati. Then the Supreme Personality Narayan desired to create living entities. The Upanishad continues, Narayana Brahma Jayate, Narayana Prajapati Prajayate, Narayana Indro Jayate, Narayana Asto Vasavo Jayante, Narayana Ekadasha Rudra Jayante Narayana Dvadashadityayah. From Narayan, Brahma is born, and from Narayan, the patriarchs are also born. From Narayan, Indra is born. From Narayan, the 8 Vasus are born. From Narayan, the 11 Rudras are born. From Narayan, the 12 Adityas are born. This Narayan is an expansion of Krishna. It is said in the same Vedas, Brahmanyo Devaki Putraha. The son of Devaki, Krishna, is the Supreme Personality. Narayana Upanishad 4. Then it is said, Eko vai Narayana, Asin na Brahma, Neshano, Napo, Nagni Samo, Samao, Neme, Dvya, Dyav, Aprithvi, Na, Nakshatrani, Na, Surya. In the beginning of the creation, there was only the Supreme Personality, Narayana. There was no Brahma, no Shiva, no water, no fire, no moon, no heaven and earth, no stars in the sky, no sun. Maha Upanishad 1.2. In the Maha Upanishad, it is also said that Lord Shiva was born from the forehead of the Supreme Lord. Thus, the Vedas say that it is the Supreme Lord, the creator of Brahma and Shiva, who is to be worshipped. In the Moksha Dharma section of the Mahabharata, Krishna also says, Prajapatim cha Rudra chapi aham eva shrijami vai tau hi mam na vijanito mama maya vimohita. The patriarch Shiva and others are created by me, though they do not know that they are created by me because they are deluded by my illusory energy. In the Varaha Purana, it is said, Narayanaha Paro Devas Tasmad Jatash Chatrumukhaha Tasmad Rudro Bhavad Devaha Sacha Sarva Jnatam Gataha. Narayana is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and from him Brahma is born, from whom Shiva is born. Lord Krishna is the source of all generations, and he is called the most efficient cause of everything. He says, because everything is born of me, I am the original source of everything. Everything is under me. No one is above me. There is no supreme controller other than Krishna. One who understands Krishna in such a way from a bona fide spiritual master, with reference for Vedic literature, engages all his energy in Krishna consciousness and becomes a truly learned man. I'll read the sentence again. One who understands Krishna in such a way from a bona fide spiritual master, with references from Vedic literature, engages all his energy in Krishna consciousness and becomes a truly learned man. In comparison to him, all others who do not know Krishna properly are but fools. Only a fool would consider Krishna to be an ordinary man. A Krishna conscious person should not be bewildered by fools. He should avoid all unauthorized commentaries and interpretations on Bhagavad Gita and proceed in Krishna consciousness with determination and firmness. Om Magnantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parichana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Pitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishnabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate. Manchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank you again, everyone who has joined today. So we just read the shloka, synonyms, translation, and purport by Srila Prabhupada. So let's now get into what our learning focus from what we just studied, read, right? So first, what we'll do is a quick summary of chapter 10, understanding what is the purpose of chapter 10. So we know that Bhagavad Gita has 18 chapters, and in these 18 chapters, each chapter has a specific purpose, and then that purpose, when we apply it to our lives, what is the outcome? So we'll do a quick summary of chapter 10, like an overview. Then understanding, in this chapter, like the previous chapter, most confidential knowledge. Now in this chapter, we are talking about Chatur Shloki. This is very famous, the four shlokas. In fact, these four shlokas from 10.8, starting from now, to 10.11, is called the Chatur Shloki. Chatur means four, and Shloki are the text or the verses. These four verses summarize the entire Bhagavad Gita. Now, Bhagavad Gita in itself is a summary of all the scriptures. So all that is condensed, and that is Bhagavad Gita. And then the entire Bhagavad Gita is summarized in these four verses. So we'll understand what these, again, an overview of Chatur Shloki, and then we'll get into details of today's verse. Today, it basically says that 10.8 Chatur Shloki starts with Krishna is the source of everyone, of everything, everyone and everything. So how can we factually learn this truth? Now it is just a statement. Krishna is the source of everything. But how do we know, and how can we learn this particular fact? That's what this particular source shloka is talking about today. And then of course we'll have our question answers and group discussion. So again, as usual, I'd like to offer my humble obeisances to Gauranga Priya Prabhu. It is his Bhagavad Gita notes, the analytical study of the entire Gita, how each chapter relates into the other, how each text, how sections within the chapter, how they flow into each other. So it gives a very nice understanding of the Bhagavad Gita. So many thanks to Gauranga Priya Prabhu. This is today's verse. I am the source of everything. We know this, right? Mahavishnu lying in the causal ocean, and with every breath, all the exhale, innumerable universes are coming out. And with every inhale, all of them come back in. So we'll do a quick summary of chapter 9 before going. This is what we did a couple of weeks ago, maybe a fortnight ago. Summary of chapter 9. Okay, what is it? The entire chapter, basically, Krishna is pleading, the word is pleading with us to choose the right path. And what is the right path? To become an exclusive devotee. Exclusive devotee means not part-time, not on doable if able basis. Full-time. Always think of me, never forget me. The highest perfection of life, to be as devotee. Not just thinking, but speaking and doing also. Why? so that whatever is the purpose of Bhagavad Gita, we can follow. The whole purpose, just as we have these 4 verses, Krishna gives that instruction, the topmost instruction, Sarva Dharman Parityaja, Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja, Aham Tam Sarva Papebhyo, Mokshishyami Ma Suchaha. Abandon all varieties of religion, your dharma, whatever there is. Dharma has many meanings. It could be your religion, it could be your duty, it is the essence, the characteristic which very defines that particular thing. Like the characteristic of sugar is sweetness. So the dharma of sugar is sweetness, chili is spiciness. So what is the dharma of the living entity? Jivera Sarupo Hoy, Nityara Krishna Das, to serve. Serve whom? So we're always serving. Serve whom? Serve Krishna. So what he says is, you abandon everything and just surrender unto me. And do not worry about your sinful reactions. All of us have some degree or the other of sinful reaction. Nobody is perfect. Nobody. To some extent, there is the sinful, and you get these reactions. Usually we think sinful reaction is something bad, but even if you do something good, it's a reaction. Reaction in itself is not good for the living entity, because you're trapped in the circle of birth and death. So what Krishna says is, abandon everything, just surrender. Whatever is that sinful reaction, I'll take care of it. Have no fear. Correct? How do you surrender to Krishna? So here it is through the Chaitanya Charitamrita, by association of devotees. That's number 1. Then by Shravanam Kirtanam, reading the books. And then by chanting. Chanting is the only recommended way. Earlier way, they used to have yagya, they used to have deity worship, they used to have dhyana, meditation. But today the condition is so degraded. So you do your chanting. And then, of course, followed by your diet. What we eat is who we are. So that is the bhoga prasadam equation. You offer bhoga, and then you eat the prasadam to take care of the physical body, also to take care of the subtle body, the intelligence, mind. And of course, deity worship, so that one develops a personal relationship and attachment. So this is the whole summary of chapter 9. Now, where chapter 9 ends, we get into chapter 10. So chapter 10 overview is, chapter 9 concludes that one should become a pure devotee of Krishna, right? So chapter 10, the whole purpose is to increase our devotion by hearing more about Krishna's opulence, right? Krishna has 6 opulences. Some of them are described over here. So all of us have some opulence in some capacity. But our opulence is very limited, and it is very relative. Few months ago, the richest man in the world was Jeff Bezos, the Amazon gentleman. And now we hear that Elon Musk has overtaken him. Now, in the 90s and 2000, Bill Gates was the richest man. Wealth, we're talking about wealth. He was the richest man, and his net worth was at that time, I don't know, 80, 90 billion dollars. Today it has gone to double that, 200 billion dollars. So it is just relative, a matter of time where that opulence is. So there will always be someone who will come and, displace you. But Krishna has opulences which are absolute, total, in full. And no one is equal to it, or no one can be more than it. So this chapter will talk about hearing about Krishna's opulences. So chapter 10, if you look at it, it has 4 sections. The first section is understanding Krishna's unknowability. So if we understand that Krishna is unknowable, it is impossible to know Krishna. When that realization happens, one begins to serve, and we'll study that how. Now, section 2, which is what we are talking about now, is the Chatur Shloki 8 to 11, text 8 to 11, is a summary of the Gita. Then we have section 3, which is talking about Arjuna. Now, you know that Gita is Krishna is speaking to Arjuna. It's a dialogue, question answers, QA session. So Arjuna poses question, Krishna replies. Then when Krishna talks about all these opulences, Arjuna accepts Krishna's position as the supreme authority, the supreme personality of Godhead. And then he wants to hear more. And then finally, section 4 is Krishna describes his most prominent opulences. Now, several years ago when I was in school, a priest, Father Fabrega, had asked this question: how can you understand the infinite with your infinitesimal mind? It's a very logical understanding. If we apply our mind, all of us know we have limited capacities, limited. Similarly, our mind is also very limited. And God, Krishna, by definition, is unlimited, infinite. So how can something which is infinitesimal ever understand the infinite? And this thing remained with me. Of course, coming into ISKCON Prabhupada, reading Prabhupada's books and associating with all you Vaishnavas and sadhus, that knowledge and understanding comes in. But what I find is that religion has always fascinated me. So Christianity is like my second religion because I studied in a Catholic school. I have a lot of intimacy with Christianity and Lord Jesus Christ. Similarly, with Islam and other religions, I have read about and I have curiosity and interest. So here, maybe about 15, 20 years ago, I happened to meet a reverend from the Baptist. I think she was Baptist, that lady. And I asked her, Catholicism, that this is what, when I was in school, a priest had said this: how can you understand the infinite with your infinitesimal mind? What do you think? And she said that, I forget her name, and she said, the infinitesimal can only understand the infinite by means of mercy. There's no other endeavor that you do will you ever understand the infinite with your infinitesimal capability, but by mercy it is applicable. We have limitations, he doesn't have limitation. So if he wants, he can make himself known even to someone who has very limited capacity by means of mercy. And the same very point which he made is there in today's text in Bhagavad Gita. So the more, if you see, there are more similarities than differences across different faiths. And you can truly appreciate and respect other faith rather than find out differences and make it like us versus them. So I'm sorry, I forget that Mataji's name. So what is the practical application and outcome of chapter 10? How to know the unknowable. Of course, there is mercy. You need to have the mercy that is known. But how will you know something which you can't know at all? How would you do it? Right? So there is a saying, if you want to know who your father is, ask your mother. So a very clever person will say, oh, I don't need to ask my mother. Nowadays you have the DNA tests, and I'll be able to figure out with DNA test. Yes, you could do a DNA test, but on whom will you do the DNA test? Today, the Earth's population is almost 8 billion, and about 50% women, 50% men. So 50%, 4 billion, and let's say about adults would be 2 billion, 1.5 billion. Whom are you going to ask in that 1 billion, 1.5 billion person to do the test? Is it practical? It would go beyond your lifetime. So the simplest way is ask your mother. So similarly over here, the unknown, okay, has some description given in the mother. Who's the mother? The Shastra, the texts, the scriptures. They are the mother. Who's the father? Krishna is the father. So if you want to know who the unknowable, Shastra is one of the means. Okay. Then what's the other way? Knowing Krishna, automatically one serves Krishna. So today, what are we doing? Why are we studying all this? So that we get some knowledge. The knowledge, what is the purpose of knowledge? The knowledge is to put it into action. Otherwise, it just becomes information which clutters the mind. And information, knowledge is something which can always be lost. It's just a question of time. Memory fades. Our brain cells become dull, whatever it is. But when you serve, that becomes permanent. Hearing and serving, one becomes absorbed. When you hear and when you serve, you become absorbed. And being absorbed is nothing but transcendental. What is transcendental? From the current state that we are in, you rise above that. So whatever is going on, It doesn't affect you. You don't have the ups and downs of life that takes you. You're above all that. You develop a higher taste. When you are absorbed, fully absorbed, always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. That is what attracts mercy. And what is mercy? Mercy has many dimensions to it. And one such dimension in this context, what this verse says, is that Krishna destroys all obstacles and hurdles. And whatever ignorance is there, with the lamp of knowledge is lit. Now you may say that, oh, I have a PhD, I am, an engineer, I'm this, I'm an educated person. We're talking about spiritual knowledge. Spiritual knowledge is to know the state of things as it is, not based on our perception, not something which is changing, something which is absolute. So whatever degrees and all that we have has no relevance when it comes to spiritual context. In fact, we are like a blank slate. So that is about mercy. That absorption attracts that mercy, the lamp of knowledge. So what is this Chatur Shloki? Okay, the eighth one, it establishes Krishna is the originator. Ishwar Parama Krishna Satchitananda Vigra Anadiradir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. The cause of all causes, the causeless cause of all causes. That's what it establishes. And when we realize this, when we know this, automatically we surrender and engage in devotional service. This is one of the outcome of text 8. Then the next one, Chatur Shloki, is who is a pure devotee? Okay, someone whom Krishna, whole soul, tan man dhan, and what he's doing is he's constantly hearing and talking about Krishna. And Krishna says, thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. They derive greatest satisfaction and bliss. If you see, we all have a propensity and a nature to talk. However, that talk is, useless talk. It could be prajalpa. Either it is criticizing someone, either it is something about politics, either it is something about some scandal, something this, something that. Wherever you see, talking. But what is that? That is all momentary. But here, when you're talking, you're discussing about Krishna, you're conversing about spiritual topics, it gives you a kind of bliss, which is fully satisfying, not to the mind, but it comes right down to the heart. Okay. Then 10.10 says that for such devotees, how Krishna reciprocates. One such way is he gives us the intelligence. And with that, using that intelligence is the ability to discriminate not in a bad way, but to distinguish what is right, what is wrong, what is beneficial, what is detrimental, towards a purpose and a goal. So if your purpose is spirituality to transcend about a material platform that we're so accustomed to living, Krishna will give that required intelligence. And once you get on that platform, you're out of the circle of birth and death, what you call going back to Godhead, the original position where we are at. And the final verse of Chatur Shloki, it says his reciprocation. It continues, Krishna continues, how he reciprocates. Then he gives this knowledge. So knowledge and intelligence. Knowledge is what, intelligence is how. Okay, so this is the entire Bhagavad Gita, everything is condensed into these 4 verses. Now, one way of being absorbed in Krishna, always remember me, never forget me, that instruction is, people can do this meditation, but meditation is not practical. Once upon a time, people had that control, mind control. Nothing would distract, and fully absorbed they could be in Krishna, these yogis. But as time passes by, man deteriorates physically and mentally. So what is the recommended process? Now, this was a picture someone posted on the WhatsApp group. This is Jananivas Goswami. What is he doing? He is serving. He's serving prasadam to another devotee. He is a sannyasi. He is a guru. But see the position that he's taking. He's taking the position of a servant. He's serving. Now, usually the disciples serve the guru, and the gurus in turn serve the disciple by bringing them on the path back to Godhead, by destroying their ignorance. So through service, physical activities, that becomes an act of devotional service. This picture, I liked it very much. His Holiness Jananivas Swami. Jananand, my mistake. Jananand Swami, Goswami Ji ki Jai. Krishna is the source of everything, today's verse. Okay, now how can we learn this? There are different ways of getting knowledge, but what is the correct way? Sure shot, without any trial and error. How do you do this? Okay, so this particular verse, 10.8, is the theme is Krishna is the source of all. That's the premise, right? So it establishes that both spiritual and the material world, everything comes from Krishna. Now, how do we understand this? Okay, if we understand, again, it's a repetition, we will automatically surrender and engage wholeheartedly in devotional service. Currently, all of us sadhakas, different level, we find some level of difficulty, some level of not as spontaneous. It has to be disciplined. We have to be disciplined to do it. You have to be disciplined to get up in the morning. When we're doing a japa, there is a sigh of relief, at least with me, when my 16 rounds are over. I met my commitment of doing my japa over here. So it is not spontaneous, but of course, sooner or later it would get to be spontaneous, because right now we are still like little kids. We are being disciplined over here. But when you have this knowledge and through practice, it becomes spontaneous, right? So how do you get it? The first way we can learn this is from Shastra. And Prabhupada has given so many Shastric examples. And the question comes is, how do I know the Shastra is true? It could just be someone's imagination. Some people, our ancestors wrote this down. They didn't have enough knowledge. We have more knowledge as time has passed by. How do you know it is true? The only way, as they say, the proof of the pudding lies in eating. Whatever is there in the Shastra, put it into practice. You'll realize it. No need of words, no need of explanation. Put it into practice, what the Shastra says, and you will realize it. That's how you know whether the Shastra is true or whether the Shastra, one of the way of knowing. Of course, the other is faith. Of course, there is faith. Faith is always there. So from the Shastras, we come to know that when Krishna says that I am the source of everything, all the other Shastras endorse it. It's not just in Bhagavad Gita. From a bona fide teacher, this is extremely important. Who is a bona fide teacher? Who is a guru? Guru is someone who has been a disciple first. You cannot be a guru without being a disciple. And the reason is because this knowledge is unknowable. And this knowledge comes directly from that source of who is unknowable, from Krishna himself. And in that disciplic succession, when it's coming, it is coming as it is. So if you have heard it as it is, you will present it as it is. And the guru, the teacher, is someone who's selfless. Usually teachers nowadays is you go to a university, they are paid to teach you. There is a profit. The spiritual guru has no gain in it. There's nothing he personally derives from it. It is unconditional. What does he do? He guides you and he corrects you. He will chastise you. Whereas other places, suppose you're a very wealthy man and you're supporting that person, the teacher, he will not chastise you if you're going wrong. He will use sweet words. And your guru is your ever well-wisher. Everyone may abandon you. He will never abandon you. He'll always be thinking of what's good for you. We think what's good for us is, material, our body. What's good for my body, what's good for my mind. He thinks what's good for your spirit soul. His body and mind will get deteriorated and finished. He's concerned about your spirit soul. He's your ever well-wisher. And then after you get from the Shastras, from a bona fide teacher, you need to put it into application. How do we put it into application? Sadhana. Sadhana, we just covered the ABCD of sadhana. ABCD also had just struck to me this afternoon. Always be chanting daily. So it's not just association books, chanting and deity worship and diet. Sadhana is also, if you always are chanting daily, that in itself completes everything. But to do that properly, you need the other support structure. We need enthusiasm, we need determination, seriousness. Not that, now it sounds good, let me do it. And then next week it's not there. Service, so very important. Whenever there's a call for service, whatever be that service, we should jump at that opportunity. Today, it requires people to convince us. It requires people to come and, very humbly request us, Prabhuji, Mataji, please come for book distribution. Because, yes, we can understand there are different commitments, there are different things that a person needs to do. But time can be adjusted. As long as there is a will, there is a way. This is a very old saying. And how does that will come? Will comes when we understand there is something in it for us, because we're conditioned that way. Then automatically we make the way for it. So service is a very important aspect of actually understanding the way things are, of understanding Krishna. And then humility. Whatever knowledge we get, we'll be able to quote all the Sanskrit slokas or Bengali sloka, whatever it is, you'll be able to quote and give references here, there. But that won't make a dent. It won't move the needle, as they say. It is only humility. Mercy is something which is unlimited. Humility is that container which can hold unlimited mercy, nothing else. And of course, faith. So here is a picture of the guru and the disciple. The guru is always at an elevated level because it is the descending process of knowledge. So if you see the Vyasasana or everything, it's always elevated. So Krishna as the Chaitya Guru, as the Paramatma accompanying every soul, is there with every living entity. So whatever he's speaking is coming through the Guru is just a via media. Through the mercy of a Guru, you get Krishna, and through the mercy of Krishna, you get a Guru. So when someone is genuinely seeking answers, Chaitya Guru inside guides a devotee to a Guru, a bona fide Guru. And then that bona fide Guru holds his hand and takes him to Krishna. A word of caution, very important. Avoid unauthorized commentaries on Bhagavad Gita. There are about 800 or 1,000 versions of Bhagavad Gita. Everyone, his uncle, his dog, his parrot, everyone has commented on Bhagavad Gita. And it is from total nonsensical to profound realizations. The whole gamut is there. So here, the Bhagavad Gita, anything related to spiritual matters from a bona fide teacher and a speaker. There are people who say Krishna is just a historical figure, like you and me. They really have no understanding They compare Ras Leela. It's a great topic of fascination because people are lusty. They think Ras Leela is something of lust because that's their understanding. And then they try to give explanations, but don't listen to it. Such things. Anything which is related to the Shastra has to be, and the way you can evaluate and distinguish who a guru is, first find out in what sampradaya the person comes in. And then it's not just what he's speaking, but how he's actually behaving. Prachar and achar, actions, should all be congruent. Thank you, Prabhu's Matajis. So that is today's discussion on chapter 10, text 8. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. We can open this for question answers. Anyone has reflection? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Amritananada, Hari Bo.
Hare Krishna, Jai Prakash Prabhu.
Okay, just a clarification I need from you. I mean, because of the physical health situation, if devotee is sitting on a chair, which could be higher than Vyasasana, what do you recommend?
It's perfectly fine.
Okay.
It's perfectly fine. I think you were there, right? When we had gone to Satyabhama Mataji and Sunil Prabhu's home.
Yes.
For Jayadvata Swami Maharaj's program.
Yes.
And everyone was sitting down. I myself cannot sit down now. I have bad knees, so I can't sit cross-legged. And what will happen? I'll keep fidgeting, and it won't let me pay attention. So I was sitting almost on the same level, actually on the same level with Maharaj. Maharaj was on a chair, and I was on another chair on the other side, close by. And then after the class, I apologized. Maharaj says, "Don't think about it. What really matters is our consciousness." Now, of course, we should always give the higher position, but as long as our consciousness is that we are humble. Physically, we are in a situation where we cannot sit down, but if you can sit down, you always. Similarly, when you see a Vaishnav, you offer your obeisances. Now, some people may not be able to offer the obeisances. So you could offer your obeisances with a simple gesture of holding your palms. Someone may be sick, lying in bed, and his or her Guru Maharaj comes to see him in the hospital. He can't get up to offer his Dandvat, but mentally he can offer the Dandvat. So that intent, and that's what will matter. But if you can sit down and your Guru is on a position and you're sitting higher than the Guru, then that is not right.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hari Bo, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Okay, we have 5 minutes more. Or if no one has a question.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Amritananda Prabhu. Such a wonderful class. We had a less attendees today, maybe because of weather, I believe, or maybe office started, we're coming late. You will see that, yeah.
But it doesn't matter. 9 is great.
That is great.
You know the pastime of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj, his disciples, once they were very excited that they were going to do preaching because, he was in a preaching mood, Bhaktisiddhanta, Lion Guru. And he was destroying all the nonsensical theories and all which were going around. So he had trained up his disciples and they would go and do pravachan. So there was a very big function which they were expecting many people to come. So two brahmacharis, they were very, very excited and fully enthused. We'll get to preach to so many people, and they prepared and everything, a lot of enthusiasm. But when they reached the venue, there was hardly anybody, almost nobody there. So after the program, they did their whatever they had to do, their discourse. They came back very dejected and they went and told, "Oh, Guru Maharaj, there were hardly anybody over there." So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj says, it doesn't matter. Even if nobody is there, you go and preach to the walls. Go and preach to the wall. Because whatever you speak is first, always remember, whatever we speak, do, is first for the pleasure of Krishna. So even if physically nobody is around there, Krishna is listening to it. So that was his instruction in terms of, even no one is there, you go and preach to the walls. And here we are fortunate that, then so many of our devotees here are regular. And that's what I really admire in the morning, Bhagavatam class, in the evening, Bhagavad Gita class, Sunday programs. That just shows the taste has developed. There are some who are newcomer. Even a person who comes even once is not only we are so grateful, but for that person also, what a change it will bring in his or her life. Even just once a person attends. All of us attended sometime, Prabhu, once upon a time. Thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Amritananda Prabhu. Such a nice realization, wonderful class. So if there is nothing else, then let's conclude then today's session.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Amritananda Prabhuji. So let's
all glories to Prabhupada.
Vanchakalpatarupasya.
Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha. Patitana pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Jai.
Jai.
Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Vaishnavrinda ki jai.
Jai.
Guru Premanande Hari
Hari
Hari.
Hari Bo.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, everybody. Hare Krishna.